After a quick stop at the pizza place, we're back. Bob Lampion's one of the people that's interested in this Sato 30 setup. Ted, of course, already has many Satos. And we heard Paul Winter just got here. I have some stuff for him to pick up, so I'm going to hang out here till he gets back. Said he has some pictures for me to look at from the British Nationals. Or from Britain, anyway. They say you have to make hay while the sun shines. Make hay in the sunshine.
Well, you actually must have slowed down if we're working on the hay pile now, huh?
I heard John Brodak makes a lot of hay. I don't know.
Hey, don't do that. Someone might get...
Well, you can tell who comes from farm country and who lives in Manhattan. Hey. All the farm boys run out for the hay bales. Oh, speaking of hay bales. Hey, you hayseed, get over here. Let me see the pictures.
I don't get wet.
What you got here? This the new plane, World Jet?
That's the...
Oh, pretty.
That's before it was Miss Ashley.
Yes, 38, number 38.
That's right, that's before it was Miss Ashley.
Looks great. Looks
it's all
great.
done the ink lining and everything.
Now, you could have used B25 silver. That will make it look nicer.
Can't get it.
You can now.
Yeah.
He's got it over there right now. Put it in your suitcase and peel the label off so you don't get caught in customs. Tell them it's shave cream or something. What does that say, crew?
Paul Winter, John Benzine.
All right, cool.
Yeah. I got a little problem on the nose. I've used epoxy on it, but it's lifted the fiberglass. I don't know.
It looks pretty nice. Give me that picture again. The big one.
That's for Tom Morris.
Yeah, that'll be good for
stunt news.
You bet.
Aiming for about...
I don't see Tom Morris. I don't know if he's coming here, if he's going to be here tomorrow or what. He's been real busy with his business, I know that.
The flag is a computer print.
Is that how the real one had that flag?
No, it had it on the fuselage. That's the real flag, yeah, off the... Well,
okay, did a nice job on it.
Yeah, but it was down under the fuselage there and I didn't like it, so I moved up on the tail. It's what do you call it? Prototypical, don't you?
Doesn't matter, it's a stunt ship, Paul. Let me see the shirt, nice shirt. When am I getting my voodoo shirt?
Get out of it.
That's
nice.
nice.
You got to go to Reno to get that.
XL. How come I don't get one?
Excuse me, you got to go to Reno.
You were going to get me one? Remember you promised?
Look at that.
And remember you said if you didn't get it for me, you'd give me this hat? Thank you.
Come here.
Yeah.
That's signed by Matt Johnson, who flew last year.
He flew voodoo?
2000, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got his name.
And that's signed by the owner.
This is nice. So again, you didn't get me, you forgot.
Yeah.
You were gonna, but your wallet got stuck in your pocket. Your wallet got stuck, you cheap British. No wonder you guys lost the war. Hey, Paul, help him spread the hay out.
Now. Chick, 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 chick. Why not put hardcore down?
You guys lost the war already.
What do you mean, you guys?
These hay bale. Look at this.
You ain't got no good grammar.
Is this Brodak hay or Sig hay? Oh man, the farmers are ruling the world here today, baby. Unbelievable. I'm glad I'm a city boy. All I gotta put up with is getting mugged and robbed and raped and... Look at this. When you're a farm boy, you gotta put up with the back of this truck. Farmers are taking over the world here. Rich Peabody, one of the people who does an exceptional amount of behind-the-scenes work for our club and for, I guess, for running intermediate at the Nats. Not intermediate. Yes, intermediate, I'm sorry. Alan runs beginner, Rich runs intermediate. And very substantial contributions to the world of stunt. Hey, I put you to the test again. You see how God works in strange ways? Just sit there like a big fat cat who just ate the canary, right? Oh God, make it stop raining at Brodak's. And God said, let it stop. How many years in a row did you do this? 3 years? 4 years?
It's gotta be 4 years, yeah.
4 years. I'll tell you, you better owe that Pope in you, boy.
Yeah,
He better learn some tricks from you. Unbelievable. John says, spare no expense. Put 2 layers of hay down and then block sand it off with 400.
How many coats are clear?
Yep.
But I want to know who the hell's going to clean this mess up. You are.
We figure you are, Bob. Hey, you gonna do that demo today or tomorrow?
Nobody's talked about when.
Today or tomorrow? Tom gonna do his tonight or?
Friday night, Saturday night.
Bug is probably wondering, what are they doing putting hay here? What the hell are they putting hay on this field for? Yeah, you can come and bite me, that's okay. I've been bitten by bigger dogs than you already. But what's with the hay? The hay. What the hay are they doing? I give up, John. What's the hay for?
So we don't get stuck.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I learned from last year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How's the driveway? No, it's not hurting. It's bad, but now it's okay. Oh, they did it again? Oh, we done the whole, from all the way around, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
With this?
Yeah.
But I mean, they didn't tear it up.
One of the planes we waited all day to see, the twin-engine ringmaster. Neil Beekman, without the hat. Neil, who needs the hat? I'll never forget the pattern stunt champion. It looks like it flies pretty good. Again, see the trend in the event. Unique planes, variety of motors, variety of different design choices, semi-scale, warbirds, biplanes, room for everybody. Even for Neil Beekman's hat. Neil is one of the Flushing regulars that we always enjoy his company. Not sure what this hand is doing in the pocket right now, but look at the body English. And again, every time I see a twin fly, I just think, wow, I can't wait to see the B-25 fly. We'll be itching to see that. Now here's the deal. If Neil had a Zetron sitting up there with two little throttles, Right now, you throttle back and land, but no. When you don't have it, you got to wait for one motor to run out of gas, and then the other motor. Kind of a nuisance. Well, it's great.
You need to go get yours home, give them lunch, and then you can...
You do that and I go get it.
then when
This
you
is
get-
the official practice circuit.
Official, is this going to be an official practice or a fake
No,
practice?
this is the official practice.
This is a fake practice.
That's official. That's Tom Dixon getting ready to practice. He's always official.
This is the new lost money method. You go to the field with money and come home broke.
You and I both want to do that.
I'm an expert, and I mean I am the expert. Ward Van Duser's over there as he picks up his toolbox, it's full of water. I said, I can get you a Zetron mounted sump pump to drain it. So you can sit under the hay and drain your toolbox. Oh man.
Well, this is an exhibition on how to make a small fortune. You start with a big one.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, I should have invested in Enron stock. I would have made money. Is Tom going to do his demo tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. I brought an extra camera and all of the wires and everything. I know he got some good copies of the video we did last year. And it helps a lot of guys. You'd be surprised how many guys, even one or two questions, if it helps you, you're in.
That's right.
Tom Dixon on the first official practice flight of the night. Totally official. Tom is slated tonight to do a demo of his, I think the right word is lost foam wing method, but not sure exactly what it is. We'll see what he has to demo. Always an interesting guy with interesting stuff. The original importer of Bali props. Designer of, I think, the Big Thunder, I'm not sure, many kits. Let's just leave it at that. Many classic and traditional kits that he produces. Some hand-cut guys. Some unique parts. Imports double star motors. Not sure what else. Runs drugs to the Arabs. We're not sure if he does some other slightly illegal things, but looks like the air is dead here now. Let's see if he's backing up. Oh yeah. Yeah, backup time. It's back pedal baby time. This can be dangerous when the air is like this. And it's typically right after rain that it is like this, where planes sink. You make a corner and it just sinks 3 feet. Whoop. Goes through its own weight the second time through. Anyway, we have been blessed again by a nice change in the weather. Looks like it's really hanging out nice here. Even the dead air, I'm sure, is welcomed by the people that don't really like flying in the wind, but even this can be a little tricky. Different kind of trickiness, but still the same thing. Not like runway air with the breeze blowing straight at your back. The original Cardinal, the one that the kit was made from, and has been learning at a pretty good rate. I don't think he has a lot of flying time. He's got not a real great motor in this. We got him a new motor for $100, so he's got a 40. What he needs is a 46. Plane's a little bit underpowered, but again, he's learning. He's having fun. He's, you know, where you would be if that type of plane is a good learning tool at this point in time. Yeah, that motor run sounds okay. He had some dumpy runs before. Again, but I get a lot of satisfaction out of just, really, guys like Sleepy. Come over to the house, borrow a plane, we go flying together, and a year later they're better pilots or better builders. Or in the best of all worlds, they're like Dave Midgley or Ken Teitzer, they help other people. Now, I'm not sure if he knows the whole pattern yet, but he was learning at a pretty good rate last season. He had a tough year with, long story. He had to watch his daughter's kids for a year, so it kind of took him out of it. But he's about as enthusiastic as a guy as you could ever imagine. Ken Sleepy Dawson, former employee of the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, whatever that is, ATF.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a very, very personal, my wife loves him. Very personable guy. Always got a funny story to tell about his arresting people, putting guns to their heads and stuff. Always funny stories. See, I don't like this motor run. The motor's running too fast.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Going too fast. I was thinking, I don't know.
It's in a dead two-cycle and level flight. Right. Right. Yeah, in fact, that motor is not.
I don't have an interest in it. It doesn't mean I don't know anything about it.
Henry Forbes flying his rendition of Bob Lampione's United 35. Henry Forbes, New York City. You're on the hot seat. Let's hear it, son. Is he a good father? Let's get to the truth. Do you let you fly planes?
Yes.
Give you plenty of money?
No,
Buy
he
you a
doesn't give
dirt
me
bike?
money.
Ah!
No, he doesn't do that.
I know better than that. He's got a set of car keys. That's all he needs.
How old are you?
16.
By the time I was 16, I already had parking tickets. I didn't even have a license.
He had a wreck on his learner's
had a
permit.
wreck,
I mean,
so
you know.
All right. Yes.
In front of the house of all things.
Yes. Doing wheelies in front of the house. I hope. All right.
Yep.
So now you're on an infamous windy video. You could have been on E! Channel, Speed Vision, the Ed Sullivan Show, or Windy Videos. Take your pick.
We've been on
This
Speed
works.
Vision before too.
Ah.
We got hit in that crowd.
That's true, we did. But
Do you know Joe Adamusco was on a cover of one of the Reno Air Race magazines? We were taking a picture of Tsunami, and you could clearly see it was him. Right standing there. I couldn't believe it. He's on a cover of a magazine.
Wow. That's pretty good.
We have the magazine, of course, to prove it.
Yeah. Wow.
Danny, shut it off. Shut it off. Shut it off, because when you go to do that, and with pliers, that's how Lampion got himself chopped up.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know?
Okay.
See, it's closed all the way, and it's still too rich.
All right. Well,
Could be the needle is loose or wrong. Don't want to use pliers. You know, when you're there with pliers and you slip, boom. Oh no, you don't do that.
Just for kicks, let's put a just to see if there's anything.
It's just absolutely turned into stunt heaven. We've gone from the torrential rains of around lunchtime to second round being absolutely stunt heaven. In fact, the air is dead. People are backing up as they fly maneuvers with the bigger planes. People are starting to take practice flights with their Tampa class planes. Danny Banjak's already got the Mustang over there ready to fuel up. We're going to be hanging out here tonight. I think tonight is the night Tom Dixon wants to do his yearly demo. And we try to help him out with that every year by videotaping it. All our subscribers and customers, of course, get a copy free. Tom sells the copy or gives it away. I'm not sure when he does his foam wing thing, but it's always good information. It's a good exchange of ideas. There's always somebody has some new ways of doing things, and it's always good to know all the different ways of doing things. And then pick the way that you kind of like the best. Jim Hunt tonight offered to take us to his house and cook us a chicken dinner. Jim, of course, is also a gourmet chef. We have made obligations to do this video thing, and being a man of my word, I guess that's the way I have to do it. But I always enjoy hearing the different comments and seeing. I'm always looking for some new ways to do things. You never have everything under control.
Okay, that's tough.
Then Then tell them by the video.
By the video.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Works for me.
All right. Yeah, he sure does.
In fact, now it works for you too. We even can bring Walter Umland into this at some point.
Yeah, Tom Morris and everybody else. Well, basically what this deal tonight is about is using lightweight fiberglass cloth for a finish base. You know, the traditional way of finishing a control line stunner is put 2 or 3 coats of dope on the wood, either nitrate or butyrate, sand it back, cover it with silk span, fill it with dope, sand it back, put your fillets on, sand it back, and on and on and on. Which, even with good quality dope, it's going to take you several weeks really to spare time effort to get a finish on the airplane. Well, about probably now 20 years ago, a guy who was in Atlanta, who's not flying control line anymore, had just moved there from Miami, or somewhere in Florida, I forget where it was, but wherever Dave Platt is in Florida. Yeah, Palm Bay. And he had been flying with Dave Platt, with doing radio stuff. And this is a technique that he attributed to Dave Platt, who was building models at that time for the movie, for the Battle of Britain. And he had to do fast production, get things strong, get it finished, get it serviceable enough finish, get the grain covered and so forth. And so Lou showed this to me. I was astounded how easy it is, how quick it is, and it adds no weight to the airplane any more than tissue and dope. Much friendlier, and until you decide what color paint or what kind of paint you're going to put on the airplane, it's compatible with dope, it's compatible with epoxy, it's compatible with Rust-Oleum. One thing it's not compatible with is if you're going to put film on top of it, in which case you wouldn't be putting glass on it in the first place. The main things, when Lou showed it to me, he showed it to me, Lou Melanson, who flies RC Combat now. Lou showed it to me using Hobby Epoxy Formula 2, which is a 24-hour to cure hard for 3 hours to get done, and thin it with acetone or dope thinner or whatever, alcohol, you can do that. Almost anything that's a solvent for epoxies can be used. But I started experimenting and said, well, if 24-hour epoxy works, maybe 1 hour will work, and maybe 5 minutes will work. And sure enough, it does. And so what I'm doing, the variation on that technique that came from Dave Platt and Lou Melanson, is to put the glass cloth on with 5-minute epoxy. Now, it doesn't cure in 5 minutes, because as you'll see as I do this, it takes 15-20 minutes to cure it. And then you trim the glass off one side, say a profile fuselage like I've got here. Then you do the other side, and it cures in 15 to 20 minutes. And then you sand that off, and then you put a coat of finishing epoxy on it, which Hobby Epoxy used to make one called Smooth and Easy. I don't think any of the Hobby Epoxy products are made anymore. What I'm using now is the Finish Cure stuff that Dodd Smith Industries puts out. They put my name on it because I buy stuff from them, but everybody's got it. And this stuff dries pretty hard overnight and sands off like powder. And as I was showing other people, this is the end result, this stabilizer and elevator, of covering the surfaces with either 0.56 ounce per square yard or 3/4 ounce per square yard glass cloth, adhered with 5-minute epoxy, then filled with the finishing epoxy, sanded back first with 80 grit to break the glaze, then 320, 400, whatever way you want to go. And the next stage after this, I'll put a coat of nitrate and talc on it. Sometimes if I've got it pretty smooth, I may just put a coat of nitrate without talc. And then that's what's sanded back, and you're ready for whatever finish you're going to put on. I don't know if everybody saw these while ago. Did y'all pass them around? And you notice that that's pretty light stuff. And that's got glass on both sides, and that's epoxy and no dope on it. The other thing about this is you really can't screw it up. It doesn't take too much time, and it really doesn't smell very bad compared to the dope finish that's prolonged over time. To get started, your basic preparation is to get your fuselage or stabilizer or elevator or flaps or wing. You can cover a whole airplane this way if it's a solid sheeted wing. Get it in bare wood, fill any of the dings with spackle or the Model Magic filler or whatever. Get it pretty much the way you want it smooth and filled and so forth. Nothing fancy about that, but you don't need to do any other liquid surface preparation on it. Then it gets easy. This is, I think this is 0.75 ounce per square yard cloth. Sigma sells it, other people sell it, Riley Wooten sells it. I'm sure John's probably got it in the shop down there. It comes in square yard, or actually it's yard by yard or yard by 2 yards generally, or you can find it from some suppliers in 50-yard bundles.
is normally the lightest stuff you can find.
Yeah, well, .56 is the latest that I've seen. See some advertising .54, I think it's all the same. I usually use the .75 because it actually doesn't add any more weight. It's a tiny bit stronger and it sinks into the grain less from what I've seen. But you know, if you got 5.6 and you don't have 7.5, use the .56. Then the next stage is to take the 5-minute epoxy. This is SIG, and I wanted a clear container, but I couldn't find one. And squeeze out maybe about a thumb's worth of epoxy total after you mix the two pieces, A and B together. You get a glob about this size of your thumb. So let me do that. This doesn't have to be real precise, because it'll cure if it's anywhere close. I like SIG's epoxies because, number one, I can buy them fairly cheap. Number two, they seem to be stronger than other people's, but I don't know that. That's just subjective stuff. I glue golf club heads on clubs with a 5-minute and never had one come off yet. And just mix up the epoxy. But most people read or hear me say, well, I put glass cloth on with 5-minute epoxy. They go, huh? How do you do that? How do you get it on before it all goes hard? You got to be highly skilled to do that. We all will be highly skilled before we run into it. And then you pour in an amount of acetone. You can use lacquer thinner. For an airplane that's, say, a full fuselage airplane with top blocks with seams and all that stuff, it's probably better to use alcohol or any solvent. Water won't work, but any solvent that won't attack the cellulose glue, because acetone will slightly soften the glue, and you'll sometimes get your seams showing back up after you blast them. There's no problem filling back up with your filler or whatever you're using, but better not to soften them up in the first place. And you pour in the amount of acetone that's approximately equal to that volume of glue. Stir it up. And at first it looks like it doesn't want to dissolve. I don't know if anybody can see this. It just kind of glops around in there. And you just stir until all is dissolved. What you're making is epoxy paint. I like acetone for general work with this because it's the fastest solvent you can easily buy. And it's very volatile, it goes off very quickly. If you're a real slob and spill stuff a lot, you want to be using gloves to work with this, because you could absorb glue right into your skin in a hurry, which you don't want to do. And you just lay the glass cloth on the wood, put the brush on it, and it just flows out. And this could not be simpler. And you'll see it kind of wets out. You can tell where it's sticking down and where it's not. And the other thing this does is it transports the epoxy into the wood. It not only fuel-proofs the surface, it fuel-proofs it down, I don't know, a few thousandths of an inch into the wood. Now, if I mix two A's and two B's, or an A and a B.
A and a B.
Okay.
You did good.
All right.
You're all right.
We can play the video back. We could have had fun with them before. Put the two A's to...
Yeah, if I mix those two A's together, that doesn't cure. I'm going to try to put those two B's together.
Tom, just a point of interest that I'm sure it's general knowledge, but I researched out with the epoxy with Shell oil.
Uh-huh.
The amount of acetone or thinner that you put in epoxy is an exact linear deletion of the strength. But in the case that Tom is doing, perfectly okay, because you're 10 times over the strength you need anyway.
Yeah, well, you're not using...
You don't want to put a motor mount in with thin epoxy is what I'm saying.
Yeah, oh yeah, no.
But in this kind of a thing, it's excellent. It makes a hard shell. It's very easy to sand.
Now, the point here is to have it go off fast. The 5-minute is not being used as your surface stuff anyway. It's just being used to adhere the cloth down and seal the wood, so the second coat of epoxy doesnst soak in, and that's how you save the weight. Now, I mixed up way more than I needed here, but I can only do one side.
Don't drink your Pepsi, Tom.
Thank you.
Can you picture him?
I wouldn't do this to him.
Poor Brodak comes in and whips, oh man, I'm so thirsty. Giesky did that with a nitro can one time at the NAC.
I wouldn't do that with a Coca-Cola, only with Pepsi.
Oh, I'll talk, Tom, please.
And I just put more acetone or get another little can to keep the brush clean. As long as you keep it wet, the epoxy won't harden up. Now we sit here and watch this dry for 10 to 15 minutes.
If you're really slow, you put that in the refrigerator.
Yeah,
Like when you make a prop, you want to do it in layers, put it in the refrigerator.
yeah.
It'll stay there overnight and come back the next day.
Well, the other side of that is you can take a heat gun and
Oh, yeah.
gently heat it up, especially to get the acetone out of it. If you put too much heat on it, you start blowing bubbles in it, which you don't want to do because it gets the acetone and the epoxy bubbles up back through the surface. Doesn't really seem to affect the strength, but it kind of messes it up when you go to sand it. The nice thing about this is it's fast. I'll have this done. We'll do both sides of this tonight and put the second coat on it. And tomorrow night when we do the thing of other fast building techniques, we'll sand it back to ready for paint. And we'll be done. You can't do that with any other finish that I know of, short of film. And even film takes time to put on right.
You can pull that out at all, just whatever brush we can.
Well, the neatest thing, now, you don't see the real beauty of this on the profile. Where you see it is when you got, like, one of the large 60 size stunner with full fuselage. Because what I do there is I take the glass, lay it over the plan, take a felt tip pen or a Sharpie or something and just draw around the wing cutout, draw around the tail cutout, snip it out with the scissors, have somebody either hold the airplane or have it hold it in the jig, and just drape it down over the fuselage, and sort of straighten here and there. And you start in the center, which is an important point too. Start in the center and brush to the ends. Any wrinkles in the cloth just flow right out, and it automatically just conforms to everything. Now you find places around the nose naturally where you may have to snip it, overlap it, and this sort of thing. But it's I could do a typical 60 size airplane, both sides of the fuselage and the fin rudder. It's one piece of cloth on the side, one piece of cloth on the other side, one piece under the wing to get the part you missed where you had to get it, get it over the wing. I've had people suggest, well, just cut a hole in it and slide it over the wing, but you can't really do that because you always snag it and tear it, and you can always patch it up underneath without any problem. The amount of trouble you really cause yourself by trying to save yourself the trouble by not having any extra seams in it is totally counterproductive. This stuff too, when you overlap it, by the time you fill it sand it back, you can't see any seams in it at all. It's amazing. It's all right. Well, oftentimes when I've got something like this working, what I'll do is I'll glass the fuselage or flaps or wheel pants or cowl or whatever I'm working on. It's a good idea on cowls to put 2 or 3 layers, or wheel pants 2 or 3 layers if you're doing balls of wheel pants. And any leftover epoxy gets painted in the engine compartment. So I'm doing two things at once. Instead of getting the airplane finished and then just painting the engine compartment. Just trying to use all the glue at the same time.
Another little trick, I haven't tried it, but it's one of the accepted techniques for making molds, is you put ordinary talcum powder in that mix.
Yeah.
Just like we make, that's an accepted mold making, get it on because time is money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, I've seen that in all videos and things that they mix talc right in with that, which is what gel coat is, by the way.
Yeah.
Filler material with what a boat is made out of.
I haven't tried it either. It seems like sometime way in the past I tried mixing talc, and for some reason I couldn't get it to go into suspension. It kept on float on the top.
Make bubbles. Yeah.
And
you got to egg
it's too much trouble. I'm not going to bother. But there's probably some method of doing that
They make talcs that have, like Cabasol, for instance, that it's a talc product that they make fillers.
Yeah.
But they obviously make fillers, but if you can make your own, it's cheaper, and that's the whole objective of doing this.
And this is good for like fuel proofing an engine compartment, this mixture you're using
sure,
right here?
Sure. It's just 5-minute epoxy. It's just turned into paint. And when the acetone dries out of it, cures out of it, once it goes off, well, nothing happens when the acetone evaporates out of it. When the acetone evaporates out of it, then it goes off in whatever the usual time frame is for that material you're working on, which is 5-6 minutes for nominal 5-minute epoxy. You just put it on and paint in a thin form.
The way to get it on thin.
You put it on thin, and it penetrates. In the engine compartment, you want it deep into the wood if you can get it that way. And you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone that way. And then you do the other side, you get any extra, you put another coat in the engine compartment, or in the cowl, or in the inside of the wheel pants, or wherever you want to go. Now, if you've got several pieces you're trying to cover with glass, then just mix up a bunch of it, do all of one side of it, one of them at one time, flip it over, and let them cure it, do the other side all at one time. Doesn't take much longer. See, by the time I've been talking here, I could have done the stabilizers and elevators and the rudder on one side. And all of it would be ready at the same time to flip over and do the other side. So that's where you really pick up a lot of speed, is working like that.
And you can do a fully sheeted wing this
Do a
way.
fully sheeted wing with it. You don't want to get it, if anything, with doing this on a fully sheeted balsa wing, it may not matter, but a foam wing, you don't want to get this stuff too thin, because there's a possibility you're going to go through and attack the foam.
Okay.
I've never seen that as a real problem, but if you're going to make an error of using too little solvent, or use a probably Solox, which is denatured alcohol, methanol, would be a way to go, because that won't attack the foam. And it takes a little longer to dry out of it, cure out of it. But there are a lot of places that talk about, when you go to a hardware store and buy, what is it, Envirotex, which is a epoxy you buy in hardware stores. It's used for countertops and stuff like that. It takes 2 weeks to dry. I've already tried it. But they talk about thinning it with methyl alcohol, same stuff we use for fuel. I wouldn't recommend using fuel, however, because of the oil. You know, you'd have a real problem with it. Let's see how close this is getting. It's not quite very good. I have done entire airplanes this way, and I tend on most of my planes today, well, nearly all actually. I finish the wing and tail in foam, in film over foam with the open base stuff that y'all have seen me do, and get the wing in, get the tail covered with film, get everything in the wing. Then I put the glass cloth on. Then I put low-tack masking tape around the wing, and put the fillets on either with epoxy light or the air epoxy light, or something I'm going to talk about tomorrow night that I just discovered again. Was this stuff?
Oh, the wife abuser.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I found out what they were really made for.
What is it made for? I don't know.
Beating the hell out of kids that are bad. I was one of the kids.
I don't know, because this has got a contour in the back of it. So when you put it in there, it lays right in the fillet. Then you put CA down, just work it on around, and then dress it up with a little bit of epoxy or air epoxy light or almost anything to fill in any little gaps. But that stuff is lighter and faster than any kind of two-part material you use for fillets, because you don't have to wait for it to cure. And I've used leather fillets back in the 60s, but they've only come back around again to be available.
Yeah, it's funny how this is all coming back, huh?
Yeah.
Everything usually comes full circle, huh?
Closer we come.
The thing that Tom is doing that I like is basically most of the things that Tom does are aimed in different direction than my stuff, but I can really appreciate that the great majority of modern family people don't have unlimited free time.
Absolutely.
And what I bump into all the time is people that would love to be involved in control line stunt if somebody would build them a plane. Now Walter and Tom Morris, obviously, and you, well, obviously. But I mean, those are the ones we know. Yeah. Wendy does not build planes for people. I get accused of building for people by people that just don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
But the truth is, this has a good impact on the hobby in terms of getting. I can think of 4 or 5 people in our own club that would be more active if they could. They don't have the time. Children in college. I just got done with my kids being in college, and things are tight when you're paying off loans and or working on your house. I have a 100-year-old house, so we just don't have that Ozzie and Harriet come home at 5 and work on a plane till midnight. I don't know anybody that does unless you retire.
For somebody who really enjoys that type of construction and that type of finishing like Wendy does, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but it's a different thing. Yeah, my thing is unique to me and maybe 10 other people in the world.
Yeah,
most people want to get it done.
Yeah, and I'm flying an airplane that flew up here last year, the Avani, that's covered with ultra coat on the wing and stabilizer. All the trim on the wing and tail is ultra coat cut out, and just ironed on. The body's covered like this and painted with a top flight luster coat paint, which I did not put clear on. That was a mistake, and the colors are beginning to smudge on it. Airplane came out 60 ounces. I won 3 contests with it last year and a half, and finished just out of the money. I was 4th up here with it last year, and we had at the Charlotte contest a couple of weeks ago, got 16 appearance points.
And there's no case to be made for if you do what I do is make 1,000-hour planes.
Yeah.
There's no advantage. It's just if you enjoy doing it, you do it. But the 99% of the people want to get the plane built.
Yeah.
They would love to be able to do what Tom has the majority in his favor at all times.
And this is the way I finish airplanes for customers too. It's the same system, because it's fast, and I can get a nice looking airplane done without stealing too much time from my family. And I can turn the thing around, get an order for an airplane, and put it together, trim it with 2 colors, take it out and fly it 2 or 3 times, and deliver it to the guy in 90 days.
The other advantage is if you only have one plane and you crash it and it's early in the season,
You can build another airplane.
you can build another one. Where I can't.
Yeah.
I just wait till the fall to come.
John's got a heat gun in here. When we speed this thing up, it'll go good.
Their heat gun?
Yeah.
Just to get power over here.
Yeah.
Right over there.
Okay.
Whoops.
He's in.
Okay.
All I'm really trying to do is just get the acetone out of it so the epoxy will go ahead and harden up. Even if you never build in film, having a heat gun is a very handy thing to have. You can take a warps out of a painted airplane with a heat gun. One of the tricks that I use, if I want to put trim tabs on your airplane, you've got horns you can't bend, take the flaps, hold the root steady, twist the tip, and hit it with a heat gun, just put a twist in the flaps instead of the tab. Whenever I see somebody with a trim tab on the airplane, I wonder why. There's so many other ways to do this without making the airplane ugly.
Especially for that flap.
I think that might go here. This is 220 paper, and by my experience, 220 is the one to use to trim the glass off. I was just doing strokes one way, away from me. If you use 320, it takes forever to cut, and anything like 80 grit or whatever will start just tearing the cloth. This is also how I trim silk span when I'm using silk span. Don't try to trim the edges with a knife or a razor blade, just do it with sandpaper. If it's not quite completely cured when you do this, it really doesn't matter. It's going to keep curing. But you don't want to have it so soft that when you start sanding, it just rips all of it right back off again. The model here is obviously not a kit version, but a scientific giant stuntmaster. Back in the days when 40-inch wingspan was giant. It's building something for just kind of a knock-around profile and bad weather flying and so forth. On a profile like this, you can also, like a ringmaster, you just put the fin on it, do the fin and fuselage all at the same time. Now this one, the rudder circles around the elevator, so you really can't do that. In this case, I've already got the fin done at home. Let's do them separately, and then glue them together after they're covered. And then, then put whatever fillet material I'm going to put. Sometimes I don't want to go all on its own. Now, something like this is very hard to sand in there. I'll usually either use the scissors, in this case the X-Acto knife, just go down the edges very lightly with the number 11 blade, just let it follow the cutout like I'll do with the wing cutout in just a second. Get that right at the edge. And even if you don't have everything just perfectly trimmed when you put the first epoxy and glass on it, it's not messed up until way after you put the the finishing epoxy on it. You can always sand and fill and use body putty and all sorts of stuff to fix mistakes. Another technique is when you're sanding this stuff, and I'll talk about that some more in a minute. When you're sanding this stuff, if you go through and you go to bare balsa, just take some CA, spot it up, rub your finger on it, wet sand it out with 220 paper. And if it's still not completely filled, put some, like the blue or green body putty. I forget what you call it.
Yeah, 3M stuff. Yeah, nitrostain.
Nitrostain, yeah. Or some variation of that stuff. Works real well. Something about the idea of trying to make an interesting video out of watching paint as glue dries is a challenge. And I didn't think about that until I was actually over here trying to do that. But
We play it on fast forward.
play it on fast forward. There you go. Well, anyway, that's basically one side of it. So as soon as I get the last little bit of this done, we'll do the other side. Start in the middle and go up to the top and bottom and roll it as far around the fuselage as you can. What I generally do on a full fuselage is go at least to the middle with the glue. And same thing, sand down the middle and the bottom of the fuselage and peel it off, and then try to have a little bit of an overlap in the middle, and then that gets sanded out the second coat of epoxy. Around the nose, if you want to, you can double overlap it to get a little more strength and so forth as you go. All right. We need some glass here first of all. Myself to my work. Now these are just scrap pieces of glass. I just save all the scraps because I always end up using them somewhere sooner or later, cowling or wheel pants or whatever. You see my shop, I've got a table that's about twice this high. It's about this high with balsa scraps because I'm always finding some little piece to use. And after a while it gets down to just stuff that's sawdust on the floor, and that's when it gets clean.
Did you ever try this with silk, Tom?
I haven't tried it with silk because silk's more expensive than this stuff is.
No, I'm thinking of having a clear finish, like a Larry Scarinzi combat kind of finish.
Well, the problem there is sanding the stuff out. You can't sand it like an open base.
It doesn't come out?
Yeah, you have to have a solid surface to sand it.
Must have been a pizza delivery guy.
You see, that's stuck. Can't get the thing out of it. Where's John?
Years ago, we used to use your sister's nylons that had holes in them.
We used the ones that didn't have holes in them.
Yeah.
Give her the ones to wear that had holes in them. Oh, I'm thinking what would be cool. It's like a yellow silk. You wouldn't have to put the colored paint. Like Doug Benedetti does those checkerboard things.
You could do that on a fuselage without any problem.
Yeah, it'd be...
The problem, it would be nice. Epoxy itself, when it gets exposed to light, normally turns a little bit brown. And I've never tried to do just an exposed finish, so I don't know whether it would discolor or not.
You're right, silk might be more expensive than e-glass.
It's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, no, I'd have...
$15 a yard now.
How much?
About $15 a yard.
Wow. Doug Benedetti does those silk jobs with the checkerboards on the top of the wings. When you look through the wing, they line up with the checkerboards on the bottom. That's what I thought of this right away, a checkerboard body, and everybody'd be going, whoa, that Dixon really knows his stuff. Oh, the truth is, he doesn't know anything.
Well, the hard part is getting the checkerboards to spray out of the spray gun.
Yeah. You know, true story, Bill Rich called me up one day and he says, oh man, Wendy, you can't believe it. It took me 3 days. I finally finished the checkerboarding on my rudder. I said, 3 days? He says, yeah, taping all that backmasking and cutting all those squares. I said, I just make a grid with ink lines and fill in every other one with a black pen.
Yeah.
You son of a... Now you tell me. Still flying out there, huh? Well, it must have stopped raining. What time did they stop last night? Midnight or something?
Yeah, I think so. It was completely dark.
Oh yeah,
And they were still flying.
Banjo can see in the dark. He's like an alligator or
He
something.
landed in the dark and couldn't see his landing. says it was the best one he ever made.
I know she liked that too, but nobody else was around to see it.
We had a guy in our club, Marty Chicola, who went to the circus with his kids and brought back those things you spin and they turn green, or I think they turn green. And he had about 10 of them, and I said, oh man, wait till it gets dark, we'll type them to our plane and fly combat. And now you got a picture in the beginning, two ringmasters, a dope. In the beginning, it was just light enough that you could see the plane and identify. But the third flight or fourth flight in, we didn't know which plane was which. That was a real problem.
Just pull up and see what
Yeah.
2 years ago, a guy had a pair of those on the rotor of a helicopter down at Joe Knoll flying at midnight.
Wow. I see things they make for custom cars. I can't believe it. They're like little battery-powered things that spin when you drive the car.
Yeah.
Did you ever see them in real? I never saw it in real life. I saw it in a J.C. Whitney catalog on a picture. You know, some drug dealer going, wow, I'll be cool. Boy, will women find me attractive if I just put these on my car. I'll have no trouble finding women now. I have those luminescent hubcaps.
and the fuzzy dice.
Yeah, the fuzzy dice.
Ugo or Now, if you get it mixed a little over thin, which I've done both times here, just go back and put a second coat on it, and you end up with the same amount of glue on there you would have to begin with.
Did you ever weigh out a whole 40-size plane and see Avanti size for it adds an ounce, half ounce, 3/4 of an ounce?
It doesn't add any more than dope and paper. I don't know what the actual
Yeah.
weight
Oh,
is.
I'm just curious if it was a draw or.
It's basically a draw.
Yeah.
This is faster.
Yeah, because you've got to seal it with something.
Yeah.
What I want to come up with is a tank that you dip it in and take it out and it's done and buffed. When I come up with that, Dixon will be out of business.
That's right.
Yeah.
A dip tank. Now, would that be cool? In fact, I remember another funny story. Everybody here heard of Big Jim Greenaway. And the first time he saw one of my planes painted, he said, oh, how'd that take so long to do? I said, well, explain the filler and the sanding. And he says, I took my car to the body shop in the morning, and at 12 o'clock it came out the other end shiny for $75. What's the big deal? And he was right.
No way, rusty by 6 o'clock.
No, but it's a true story. He had me. There's no counterpoint to that. You go to Earl Scheib? Or that Mako thing you see on TV?
Yeah, let's speed this one up a little more.
Yeah, it is a challenge to make this interesting. You're right. You gotta have dancing girls or Bowflex commercials or something.
One fellow back home showed me a nice technique for cutting glass cloth. You put it between newspapers.
Yep.
You know what you do, Tom?
Yeah.
Put it between newspapers.
No, I just have butcher it up and let it hang over.
And you take your scissors and cut it. Never gets a frayed edge.
Yep.
And nice clean cut, each and every time.
Guys that do this for a living can cut 30, 40 pieces at once, like dressmakers can. And they have something they lay on both sides and just zzz. I tried it, I made
one
nothing.
of those rolling cutters.
Rolling cutter, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any of that. I just what Tom does is cut it and butcher it and save the scraps.
You were supposed to provide, people are supposed to be asking questions or having comments about various things, keep this interesting for video sites now. You guys get with it.
Maybe tomorrow you want to bring some dancing bears or something?
The technique came from Dave Platt.
And may have been from somewhere else, but Dave's the first one I heard of using it.
On those black art tapes that he did, he talks about that, the technique, and he talks about using the polyester, the can be polyester resin as opposed to epoxy, because it hardens.
Yeah, it hardens faster.
If you use, does it work with both?
Oh yeah, you can do it with polyester, but the problem with polyester is it's incompatible with anything that's epoxy underneath. Any place epoxy shows, the polyester won't cure. And it'll just be like rubbery forever. And I'm not like a professional, modeler like Dave is, but my experience is, use epoxy all the way through, or if you're going to use polyester all the way through, so you don't have any incompatibility. I'm not sure brand matters, but you can't go epoxy one thing and then polyester the next thing. I don't like polyester resin anyway. It stinks.
It stinks to holy hell. That's for
and
sure.
the hardener, whatever, I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, the catalyst is dangerous
MEK.
around your eyes.
MEK, if you get it in your eyes, you're dead. You don't even bother going to the hospital. MEK, yeah.
Yeah, might as well
Yeah.
go and keep it.
And they go
Yep.
stale. They go stale after a while. I've had tubes of
Yeah,
it no longer
yeah.
any
You
good.
can buy
after
it, you can buy it in the hardware store, I don't know if it's the same,
You're right.
same
Yeah.
stuff.
Bondo,
Same-
when you get Bondo, that's what Bondo is.
Yeah, yeah, Bondo's.
The other trouble is the reality is not, and again, it doesn't matter, but just for general information, it's a 3-to-1 ratio epoxy, strength to weight ratio of
Right, seen one.
epoxy, even low-end epoxy, which finishing resin is about 3 times stronger than polyester. When they make like an ocean racing boat, they don't make it out of polyester resin, make it out of epoxy.
Yeah, epoxy's just easier to fool with, it's easier
Yeah.
to clean up, it's predictable, it's cure time. You know, if it's 5-minute epoxy, it's gonna go off in 4 or 5 or 6 minutes, something like that. Polyester, you may not get it quite right, and it might go off in 3 minutes, and it might go off in half an hour or an hour.
Well, I'll tell you
or
a funny story. When I first started making molds, is absolutely true. I made a big giant mold for a 5-bladed prop,
Yeah.
pulled up and got a gallon of polyester resin. Look at the hardener, look at the resin,
Yeah, it could be a
poured the whole thing in, stirred it up, poured the thing. No, everything was cool for about 5 minutes, and then I heard burst into flames, smoke. It'll catch fire.
Yeah. Yeah, you mix a little too much of that stuff in there, it'll go off.
Oh yeah,
I just don't fool, but other than, like making them a mold or I use some Bondo to make canopy molds we have barricade canopies made by SIG and slap Bondo all over it, smooth it out and so forth. But that's about the only thing I can think of you would use polyester for in the model. You just, there's no reason to do it. Not quite ready. I was going to talk about sanding. You see me sand the edges here on this first piece of this. When I get the second part cut or cured, I'll go over and see if there are any high spots, or oftentimes I'm covering a full fuselage, you'll get wrinkles and overlaps here and there. Let it get reasonably hard, sand those out with a little bit of 80 grit paper, or you can use the 220 or 150 or whatever, just knock down the high spots and get the overlaps beginning to fray, and then it's easier to cover them up. If you've got clean lines, it's hard to hide them. When you put the surfacing epoxy on, which I'll do in a minute after this cures, they say you can sand in 3 hours. I usually wait 24 just to be sure, because you just got a harder shell cure. Longer than that's probably even better. But it sands pretty well after 24 hours. As I said, I use 80 grit paper. I've just got some stuff from the hardware store the other day that I haven't tried yet on actual models. I'm sure it's all hat to everybody in the sheetrock business. This is sanding screen in 80 grit. And I suspect that'll work a lot better than sandpaper, because as you sand it, the stuff just comes out the backside. But in sanding that, breaking the glassy shell, when this cures, it's got a waxy, shiny surface to it. And you got to get that off the airplane and get it right back down to the cloth. And then you end up with like the stabilizer elevators are. But less than 80 grit, you'll be there from now on trying to break the surface. And more than 80 grit leaves scratches in it. You have to go back and fill. And just 80 grit seems to be the ideal grit to do the work with.
If you wrap this, so I've had experience using that on woodworking in the house as well as airplanes. And the nice part is, when you get some stuff in there, whack it across your hands,
Yeah, it comes right
the
out.
stuff all falls right out. If that doesn't work, you can always wash it and let it dry.
Yeah,
You can use it where it's dry.
Yeah, I haven't tried this, but I can't see why it wouldn't work a whole lot better than 80 grit sandpaper for this purpose. I don't know how it would work other places in model.
You ever wipe that down with acetone before you start sanding to get that waxy?
Just sand. And
you don't really ever get it off until you sand it. In fact, the part of the regimen of when you take 2 epoxy parts, you want to join them. The regimen from every epoxy manufacturer I have ever heard is, for step 1, sand with 80 grit paper. And that joint is dependent on having those tooth marks in it. So if you took 2 volley props and glued them together, you could just break them right apart. Sand them with 80 grit, glue them, you'll break the blades before you get them apart. Oh, exactly. The more, if you can make a rough surf, a rough is always better than smooth.
What do you get here? What mixture of epoxy do you use right now?
It's 50-50 in SIG 5-minute A and B, and thinned with acetone. Then the amount that he made, roughly 50%. I think he said it was a little on the thin side.
Yeah,
I think maybe like 60-40 might.
Well, I just poured too much acetone. It's hard to get it back out once you poured it in there.
Yeah,
You make it out, you have to add more glue.
Salt shaker's the same way.
Same deal.
He's not mixing it every time, though.
No, he had it all pre-mixed.
Why didn't it cure up then?
Because he's real slow. It takes a lot with the acetone. It slows the
Slows
cure
it
down.
down.
Yeah, if you let
Some
it,
anyway.
in normal atmosphere, normal temperature, the acetone will cure out or evaporate out of it, and the glue will go off in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm trying to speed it up with a heat gun to get the acetone to go off, not cure the epoxy. Once the acetone's out of it, the epoxy cures in a normal 5 minutes or whatever it is. But if you used, the slow cure epoxy and that Envirotech stuff or Hobby Epoxy Formula 2, you'd be this time tomorrow before you can be sanding the edges. And, you can do one side, then the next day you got to do the other side, and you see we're going to 5 minutes. We're under an hour, actually about 40 minutes so far with this, allowing for the cure time.
That's right.
And he's going to fly it before it gets
We'll fly tomorrow.
Fly before the sun goes down.
Now, it'd be an interesting test, Tom. If you have a part, Bob Brookins is going to do a little demo on spraying Brodak B25 Silver, which is a new pearlescent, it's the color the B25 is. So if you had a part that was kind of ready for its first coat of colored paint, we could extend the demo for Bob anyway.
Yeah.
And anything silver, you paint right over silver anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, what I would do with one of these pieces is I will do is just mix up some nitrate and talc and just brush it on and then wet sand it back off just to fill any of the fine scratches from any of the paper and any last grain that's there. I don't pretend to be a finishing master. My skill is in the art of disguise, to do it cheap, quick, and lazy and have nobody notice.
You think you're different?
Sounds like
I admit it.
an American success story.
Been there, done that.
I could put huge amounts of effort in figuring out how to save energy in order. It's incredible. Like I was talking about last year in the wing demo, I thought about that for 2 or 3 years before I ever tried it. And it worked perfectly the first time. I was like, why did I wait so damn long?
Didn't Les McDonald become famous for saying something like, it took him so long to learn how to fudge a maneuver, it would have been easier just to learn how to do it right.
Yeah, the standard trick, people see some of my airplanes and say, well, why you got the cap strips in there geodetic? And I said, because I'd have to take time counting where they're supposed to go and lining them up. And that's the only reason they're geodetic. I go, that's about right, and be done with it. And if I want them parallel, I got to put pieces of tape down and point and, mark.
And if one's off, you can really see
yeah,
it.
it's geodetic.
And it's always on the top of the outboard wing where the first thing when somebody appears, that one of the third number 3 is in crooked. Like in the history of model aviation, nobody's ever put a hole in the bottom of an I-beam plane. The bottom's safe forever.
I suspect that's true.
Right.
I suspect that's definitely true. I've never built an I-beam. I've gotten halfway through building an I-beam before and decided that, I think the reason I quit was I wasn't satisfied with the way it was coming out, and I didn't really want to do it again, so I never finished the airplane. But I like the system I use with the foam. Again, for a guy who wants to get in the air fast, he can do the wing in his lap, like we were talking about earlier. Sheet the wing one night, join it the next night, put the tips and the cap strips on it, cover it with film in another day or so. You can build an airplane in a week or two, spare time effort with no problem at all. And not have to have wing jigs, not have to have a big table that you have to build an I-beam airplane on to keep everything lined up. And it's not just that it makes a good flying, light, strong airplane. There are all these secondary things that you don't have to have to build airplanes this way.
Right about now, we should have a Bowflex commercial.
When I got to the motel the other day, the girl said, "Oh, we need to upgrade your room." And I said, "As long as I'm paying the same price, I don't care." She said, "Oh yeah, it's the same price." So I get in there and I got a jacuzzi. I got an ironing board and an iron, which I really need.
A hairdryer.
And a hairdryer. But the part I really need the most, I probably need it the most, but the part that I'm really the least interested in is the exercise bike that's in there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you'll wear that right to a nub.
I got to check walking to the motel for a workout, right?
You don't burn those bearings up.
Yo, those ball bearings are safe.
If anybody wants to stop by and try it out, you're welcome to get on it. It's like, this has got to be some kind of a joke, right?
Well, you've been upgraded, there's no doubt about it.
2 TVs probably.
If I know what the upgrade was, I was thinking she was being hostile. It's just, hey, you need to use this thing while you're here.
Yeah, she was waiting for, no skinny guy gets the exercise bike.
She knew what you'd like.
The Bowflex boy comes in, he doesn't get that room.
Worry about not trim.
The Teller of Panama over there.
You know, what's going to be interesting about this, getting this back to the motel, or I guess I can leave it here tonight, that'd probably be the best thing to do. Without getting epoxy all over my car, since it won't be cured until tomorrow. So I think I'm going to leave it here, hang it up on the wall or something. We'll come back tomorrow and sand it, that's part of the other thing.
What we're gonna do first thing in the morning before you get here is put a new coat of epoxy on. 38 hours, never cure epoxy.
Slow stuff, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of curing, though, that made me think that one of the tricks you can do with glass that's kind of neat is you can cover it using CA. And the Satellite City people back in the, I guess the 70s or early 80s, I think they even had a video on how to put glass on with the thin CA. And it works. It gets so hard it's very difficult to sand. But it does work, and I've done it a lot for things like wheel covers. You know, just slap a piece of glass, trickle CA on it, rub it out with my finger, and hit it with a kicker. Go back, sand it with 80 grit. You know, if you need to slicken it up, put another layer of CA on it. And you got your wheel covers done in, 5 minutes.
How do you get your feet with that?
Well, you got to keep moving around fast. Yeah.
You don't stop moving.
Yeah. Now Andy's got an Avani that he just finished. Didn't you glass the whole thing?
Entire plane's glass.
You got it here?
No, it's my
It's home?
the one that I landed on the 21st flight.
The landing was not buoyant because of the glass making it too heavy.
No.
It was the Andy that boinged it.
Yeah.
Was that the
Well, I can actually put the
confession's good for the soul?
Between wind and gravity surges, it'll
Yes,
do
it
every
did. I
time.
grabbed it, and the earth just jumped straight up at it.
Smote it. Now, one of the things, this is a true test of faith here. This is not totally, completely cured here, that I just put on there. It really doesn't matter very much, because when you put the next coat of epoxy on it, it's just going to keep on curing. As long as it's dry enough that you can handle it, you can keep putting the next layer on it. There's no reason not to. You don't want to get, having sticky epoxy all over yourself, but if it's reasonably cured enough to handle it, you can go to the next stage. You don't.
There's really a window of opportunity when you have one layer of epoxy and you can put the second layer on, it'll bond real well, and then there's a time during which it won't bond real well and you have to sand it. Mm-hmm. So like the best thing if right now he put the second coat on and then went to supper or lunch, or it's better than waiting overnight and putting it on, because you're not dealing with the waxy, the residue.
It's probably be easier to cut out later after the second coat's on. For cowlings, I'll fold it around the cowl and cut little slits and just fold it inside and line the inside of the cowling at the same time. Put 2 layers on it. Depending on the kind of cowling I've got, I'll sometimes glass the inside, just to get some extra strength if the wood's real thin in it.
Got a trash can.
Want a soda?
Pepsi?
They clean me right out.
I don't think so.
Or clog me right
Half
out.
of this is epoxy that's in here.
Oh, okay.
It's Pepsi's new flavor. Epoxy with lemon.
Now this is the finishing stuff. Now this is a lot thinner, so. And there are people who put this on, just mix it up and brush it on, and that's fine too. But you end up putting more glue on there than you really need to, and it makes it harder to sand it off.
The thing you never want to do is use finishing resin for glue.
No.
It's nowhere near the strength. They trade away all the physicals to get that it's easy to sand. The strength physicals go and the sand physicals come.
I have used it for hinges at times because it's easy to shoot in hypo to shoot down the hinge slots. And I've not had a problem with them coming out so far.
Until today.
Well, no, I haven't had anything.
Till Andy
today.
flew to your mind.
Do you have
Oh,
hinges-
blame him, Andy.
do you have hinges come out
No, I
today?
use polyspan, over-unders.
Oh, okay.
Mine was all gas.
Now, the finishing epoxies, when you mix them out, you got little air bubbles, and frequently you just see little bubbles float up in the air. That's how you can tell you're getting it mixed. And again, I'm way over doing this.
Trick with any epoxy, is whenever you think it's mixed, mix it 2 more minutes.
When the stick stands up by itself, you know you're ready.
You're done. You're ready.
Now, what we got here, just for curiosity, is that some of the fiber that was in there
Mmm.
in the bottom of the can. It's like concrete, it cures underwater or whatever.
By now, I would have gone through about 4 brushes.
Now you can see, I don't know if we can get this on the camera, but that's laying out real slick now because it's all laying on top. You get this wet look, and you don't really brush on and gives you a real shiny surface. I don't know whether you can get this on the video, but if it looks matte finished, you don't have enough glue there. Let me do the other side so you can see that's where we start from, and you just brush the epoxy on it and it gets real shiny. And it'll stay that way if you got the right amount on there. And then just cure like that. Now you can see here it's a little short on glue and it's just a sort of a flat spot. And I've already painted that, so we'll just put a little more on there.
Well, that is thin.
Yeah, it's basically about water thin.
Yeah.
The great thing about this, on the bonnet that I just did, I only gained 2 ounces.
Half acetone,
Complete
half epoxy.
fuselage is done, the wings are fully sheeted with balsa, and they're
Well, I'm
completely
using-
glassed also.
I use the SIG
entire
5-minute for
tail
the base.
feathers,
And
flaps,
this is
The whole plane was 2 ounces.
second
2 ounces.
2 ounces.
All I
That's
gave.
great.
I did just like
Yeah,
I'm doing here.
that's good. Yeah.
And after my coat of finish resin, I sanded it where it felt smooth. I put 1 coat of primer on, sanded it, and I went right to color. I felt it was by far lighter than a dope finish.
Yeah, that's a 680-inch airplane with a very thick wing on it. Trying to get some down the end grain of. I don't want any in the fuselage cut out or the wing cut out there because I want to get a good wood join there. This doesn't have the blind nuts on it, so it's a good idea to run some down the holes. Seal holes on the inside, you get it to trickle down in there. Of course, if you're only really be sure about that, get your little glue gun syringe and just shoot some through.
I use a round toothpicks.
That'll work. There's, whatever you're comfortable with, what you have on hand. I've got a stabilizer and elevator here. The second coat like this has been sanded out, and there's nothing else on it. Any of you that come in late may not have seen these yet. The handle and looked at them. The other thing that's nice about epoxy as a base is it doesn't shrink. Once it's cured, it's there. And anything you put on top of it, including dope, is going to be there. It's not going to show grain over time because once it's full cured in the, say, 24 hours, 48 hours, it's not going to change. And that's another reason to wait 24 hours, get a full cure, then sand, and then, it's going to be stable at that point. Good spot there. And if you put too much on, again, you get, all it just takes is more sanding to get it off. It's nothing you can really mess up this much. I'll say this, like you say, we'll come back tomorrow and it's just still a gloppy mess and hasn't begun to cure. In which case we'll take one of John's planes in there and start working on it instead and they're finishing. Now I would hand this around, some people are going to get glue all over their fingers, but you can see that's pretty much the way it's going to look when it's cured. The only way you can tell it's cured is to touch it or paint something else with a mixture and make sure it's hard dry before you handle it. This finish cure stuff gets reasonably hard in 2 or 3 hours, but you can still put fingerprints in it at that point. So it's better to just hang it up somewhere and let it cure. What I try to do is do this stage of the piece of work right before I go to bed at night, or right before I go to the office for work. So when I come back, it's at whatever next place it needs to be, and then time takes care of the work to it. We got anything we can't just on?
Here's a nail over here, I don't know if it'd be high enough for you there.
No, that one was too high.
There's a nail over there on that right
underneath
on
that.
the other side of your chair there.
Hang it on a 5-cylinder engine out there.
Yeah, trying to see if there's something to keep it sticking to the wall. See if there's any wax paper, plastic wrap, or anything like that anywhere. Plastic wrap will be best.
Make the nail perfectly level.
That's not even the nail I was looking at, I was looking at the one up here.
I was keeping it on the trophy.
Well, anybody see anything with it?
That's as far as I know.
How about where that brush is? Brush down, hang it from there.
Hang it from the hole near the engine.
It's not pushing a wood.
Is this a loose piece right there?
Now there's what's wrong with this system, Tom. You save 4 hours doing a dope finish, and you put 4 hours to figure out how to hang it up. There's the downside of it.
Oh, your wife comes in and makes you fix the wall.
Yeah. You get up in the morning, you got to take it off the wall. Oops. Whoops, honey, we got to repanel the shop.
Better yet, come back tomorrow night.
Well, a new motif. Profiles all over. Famous profiles.
Now tonight, if somebody presses that up against the wall, I'll be real. Oh yeah, here's the new technique for getting it off the wall with a chisel.
One side's gonna be brown tomorrow, that's all.
That's basically it, you know, and other than the sanding, like I say, we'll sand this out. Anybody want to see these other pieces that had sand? This is the second layer of epoxy, sanded with 80 grit and then probably 320 wet. There's nothing else on there except the 2 coats of epoxy and black ball. You know, candling up the light, you see that 99% of the grain is filled up on it. And like as I said, I put nitrate and talc as just another filler to get the last little bit of grain filled and have a perfectly fat finish to start putting paint on.
It's ready for paint.
Yeah, you can go right and paint it. For just a knock-around sport airplane, that would be perfectly fine. Spray it on a coat of, if you're going with something like luster coat or Rust-Oleum, paint a coat of primer on it. If it's got any thin spots where you see air bubbles, go back and patch those spots. And then go to your color enamel. For dope, you put nitrate on it. And nitrate as a bond coat. That's an important point too. Anytime you're using epoxy, you want to go over it with a coat of nitrate. Your fillets, if you put an epoxylite or air epoxy, paint them with nitrate. I don't know, does John have a nitrate in the line now?
No.
SIG does, but the SIG nitrate works. And if you don't buy SIG coat for anything else except getting nitrate to paint cover fillets, you'll stop having fillet bubbles.
The catalog says nitrates.
Well, I don't know.
Those lines, I just looked at the new catalog today.
Wendy's the paint guy, I didn't know whether
It says there's nitrates in the, down toward the bottom.
I'm not aware of it. The reason I don't use nitrate is in
the catalog, so.
I'll explain this for whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
If you're doing a kind of a quick finish like this, nitrate is a lot less prone to be a problem than if you're sanding. As you sand through the butyrate into the nitrate, the scar that you leave becomes aerogloss.
Yeah.
And then you can get yourself, the less fussy you are about a finish, the safer it is.
Yeah.
The more you're going to sand and knock edges and bubbles and things, and an example of all the people I know that have just basically ruined the plane by mixing it have all been the top level finishers.
Yeah.
Beginners never have any problem with it.
Why would you go right to butyrate? Why
Well, butyrate, because even John's butyrate, which is fast curing, fast drying, gassing off butyrate, it just does not have the adhesion that nitrate does. Nitrate's like zinc chromate. I mean, it sticks to everything, you know, and it's...
Nitrate is made in the real world to attach fabric to a tubing
it's
aeroplane.
thin
It's a glue.
Yeah.
It's a glue.
And it'll stick to the epoxy, and then you can put anything else on top of it. And you can put epoxy on top, and Rust-Oleum on top of it, you can put butyrate.
Butyrate will stick to a nitrate, okay?
Once you put the nitrate in there, butyrate will go over it fine.
What's another neat thing, if Brookins is going to do his demo, is take one of these, put one coat of Brodak white primer on it and sand it off 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
As an alternative, if some people are going to prefer nitrate, the safety of using the primer is it dries instantly.
Yeah.
And it can be heavy if you don't sand it all off, but boy does it bond.
Is it something like an auto lacquer body lacquer primer or something similar?
It's a high fill, high bonding butyrate.
Okay.
but it's totally compatible with all, obviously with all of John's
Sure,
paint.
sure.
So it's a really good thing if you have, I mean, if you're looking to save time, if time is the trade-off, I think it's about a 20-minute window that you can sand it. We'll try it, because Brookins is going to do his thing, and
Do you know if, with the Brodak, excuse me, Brodak primer, that you could then put like an enamel finish on it in the stick, like Rust-Oleum or...
well, there's one way to find out. You know how it is. We'll just do one tomorrow. If it melts, we'll give it to John and say, reformulate this.
But I do know the nitrate is compatible with everything, and sometimes I'll get that airplane up to the point, the wings and tail and film, and nitrate fillet's done on the body, and I haven't figured out what I'm going to paint it with yet. You know, as long as it's got the nitrate, I can go to anything.
The only reason for using butyrate instead of nitrate for the whole finish is it's not fuel-proof.
Yeah, nitrate's
I mean,
fuel.
you're using the butyrate because nitrate isn't fuel-proof.
Right.
Free flights that use rubber power, they use nitrate
Yeah,
for the
sure,
whole thing.
Sure, and diesels, you know, diesels.
Or anything that doesn't have to deal with nitromethane.
Yeah.
Question. 2 or 3 years ago, at the full-size airplane shop on the Airbase, I got 4.5 gallons of a 5-gallon drum of Randolph's butyl nitrate dope. I didn't know they had a mixer of butyl nitrate.
I don't know, Wendy may know something about that.
I couldn't kick the price, and they $10.50 to take it off their hands because they weren't doing fabric on their light airplanes anymore, they were aluminum.
Seems fine.
What you got, Doug, is one of, I think the number that I'm looking for is 3,380, but it might be something real close, of the product line of paints that they have mil specs for, of which we have a proprietary one. Brodak is a registered proprietary formula, not exactly the same as the stuff you buy in the airport.
Because this was...
I will not divulge the formula because I'm sworn to secrecy like Batman.
This was the civilian side of the airfield, by the way, not the military. This was...
Yeah, as an example, that basically they make high shrink and low shrink material. The formula that Brodak has used for all the colors and things is not high shrink or low shrink, but it's a blend of both of them. That's why you don't need shrink dope in Brodak, where you're doing SIG. SIG doesn't blend it, Brodak is. And I came up with the formula, and Frank McMillan tested it, and we both agreed. I did an I-beamer, he did a D-tube, that we were close. So far, I think we're successful. The beautiful part is if all of a sudden the planes start warping, we can change it by a percentage or two. By 50-gallon drum lots, because it's all computer generated. So you can't do that when you're, well, you know, you mix fuel by hand, right? You know, Power Master doesn't mix fuel by hand. They go dunk, 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 and out comes 2,000 gallons. So there's an advantage to having that technology.
Evidently, what I've got is pretty similar to what Brodak stuff is because it does, like you said. I put it on a surface, of course, it wrinkles up a bit, and then it...
Sure. The problem with airport dope is the shrink rate. Lou Dudka took a plane and just, it turned a 60 ship into a 40 ship. Ink lines went around corners. And if you use the no shrink, believe me, it's no shrink. You put tissue on, it'll be just like it was the day toilet paper.
I was surprised on the warp by how this was a wing in 1972, a rubber wing, a 10 aspect ratio, real thin wing. I put a coat of the stuff on, I twisted and held it until it appeared to dry, and out went the warp.
See, the formulas that Randolph uses, though, they're mil spec. So, like the one they would use for a bird dog in World War II, that's a registered thing. It's their formula. And they have thousands of them. So when they want to create, helicopters are painted with different material than Piper Cubs. All the Razorback, Seconite, nylon covered tube frame planes have formulas that each manufacturer uses. The reason is because they're allowed so much weight per, Piper Cub is allowed to have 132 pounds of paint. You just can't paint it like it's a windy Concours plane. It'll never get, I mean, there's an amount they're allowed to have on in terms of coats and weight and the material. So these mil-spec things are kind of figured out and they're kind of set in stone, but we've got a unique one. The Brodak one is a registered with Randolph, and Randolph has been approached by SIG to make their paint, and they said no. So just for people that always like to speculate about rumors, and in my case, I live near the Randolph factory. I know the Randolph family personally. It's to John's advantage that he can change the formula. For instance, if he comes out with an I-beam kit and everybody's complaining the wings are warping because of a certain, we could change it by 1% or 2 or whatever. That hasn't happened so far. I think most people, most of the time, have relatively good luck. And John is willing to change. I mean, we've had a couple of problems with the way certain colors were mixed at But that's all been, you know, any new product you come out with, that's part of normal shakedown, and you've done it with the fuel. I mean, you know, that's a normal thing. In my business, it's like the same thing with molding carbon. You make bad parts, you throw them away, and that's how you develop things. So,
the little tricks is what I had been after when I wound up with this 4.5 gallons. Was I needed a half a gallon to finish a job to go to King Orange 3 years ago. And I needed it right away. I couldn't get it from Brodak. I didn't have any dope. Went down to the hobby shop.
Sure.
He had a couple 4-ounce bottles.
No.
So I said, shoot, what am I going to do? I said, oh, I'll call the airport.
Right.
Call, you know, the fixed base
Sure.
operator. And son of a gun, the guy said, well, we had to go to the hangar to find this thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's fun and games because sometimes it flushes and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And so Thursday came to a rainy, hope it's going to be better tomorrow, rainy end, but we did get a lot of good flying, good demo, a lot of good fun, and we hope the weather's going to be bright and shiny tomorrow. But whatever it is, we'll take whatever comes our way. Well, it's Friday morning, ready for the classic event, and it looks like the rain is not here yet, but it may be coming. You can see some of the nice rolling hills where the motel is located. And we're headed off to Brodak's. It's about a 13-mile drive from the motel. Let's hope the rain holds. Well, they're ready for the pilots meeting. Oh. Hey, McBride, the McBride boys are here.
Any deviation?
Adam Musco's here with his red shirt on, Midgley. Hey, good morning, good morning. All the big names in the world of stunt, carefully paying attention to the pilots meeting. Are you paying attention to what he's saying?
I'm listening. I was just related.
That's very disrespectful.
I did my figure 9 and
oh yeah?
in the head on takeoff.
You almost killed me.
We were over there when the alarms all set up. I said, okay, Woody, try to fly. I'll get you airplane. Get out.
Right now.
Back there.
Oh, never mind.
Can't get it high. Never mind.
Another thing I'll remind you, Sunday morning, Fellowship Christian Models will have a service under this tent. I think it's, what time? 7:15. So I'll remind you of service at 7:15 Sunday morning. Any other questions from anybody? Safety thongs, be safety, know where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be. We got too many people to lollygag around. Please do your very, very best. Help each other out if you can.
Lollygag, I like that word.
All right, let's go to your circles. Have a good day. Fly safely. Good luck to all.
The one that never stops moving. Isn't that right, Wendy?
What's right? Wendy's always
the
right.
People that allowed in the pits are the pilot and his helper.
I like it.
Because of that bullshit.
I know. Kick them off. Show some spinal column.
No way.
Mrs. Fitzgerald knows that.
Mrs. Fitzgerald. How disrespectful.
And Bob
Wow.
Gialdini knows.
God, he could get a spanking from Woody. I could get a spanking.
I'll be right back. Kicked him out of the pits.
He threw Bob Gialdini out of it.
Let there be sun. Look at this. Actually,
And God said, let there be sun.
Western Pennsylvania.
Let there be a bird. Look at a birdhouse, Joe. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, Purple Martin birdhouse.
Yeah, that's a Purple Martin house.
Hey, I saw a class of wild turkey back there on the carrier circle.
Really?
Nice, all female.
Really? Wow.
Should have brought your shotgun. Yeah.
No, I don't shoot them. I make pets out of them.
Hey, how's Pete doing?
I called home. He's doing fine. He's
Oh,
doing
that's
fine. Looks like we're going to get some weather today. Amazing.
Sorry with this wet ground.
Okay, let the games begin, gentlemen.
We're gonna get weather.
You better get your slicker out, Woody.
Oh, don't worry, it's not far. It's not far.
Get your slicker out. Wait, bathroom boy. Okay, you got a chic? 1 second.
Yeah, this like.
You know how I like elliptical I-beam wings? Yeah. That's great.
Actually.
All right, we're gonna come over and watch you do your thing. Wow, that looks pretty nice.
Thank you.
See those little flaps?
Now look, everybody says you can't fly a plane with dihedral, it won't fly right. What do you say, Pete?
Okay, yeah, well, the B-25 should fly. That
Well,
guy's
it's upside
coming
down.
over at 9 o'clock.
With the start
He's
with
going
the
to come over and talk to you, the one with the
absolutely, yeah,
Stenson,
yeah.
and he wants to get with you, me, and Brodak.
Let's all
and
get
then
together.
you'll figure out what time is
Okay.
best for you and that, and what you want to.
The green van on you can't miss it. It's the last one on the end. Ah, Vico Chief. All right, Tom Morris is here setting up.
Good morning, Wendy.
Tom Morris, the king, he has his own event. Has his own.
It's the Cavalier event.
The Cavalier event. He's changed the way we think about Cavaliers.
We're trying to decide whether it should be a covey of Cavaliers or a flock of Cavaliers.
Now, what I really was impressed with was the Jose Modesto drive over it with a truck and send it to Jose. That's the one I don't want to get in the mail.
And then you call.
That was a shame.
And then he badmouthed his Tom. He said, "Tom drove over my car."
And then you call up UPS and say, "Oh yeah, we'll have an inspector come right over."
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll get the forms tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Unfortunately, 3 weeks ago.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
no, they're not fast.
No. But you do collect the money eventually. So these are how many of these you actually make now? Legitimate now? 100, 200,
I'd guess 75.
75?
That's
pretty good.
I hadn't kept track. I don't know.
I mean, I see them all over by us. Other than the profile cardinal, I think you got the record, and you're probably going to beat me out eventually. Whee!
I haven't had time to develop any more kits just because I've been.
What for? If you're selling Jeeps, why invent anything else?
You know, it slows down.
Yeah.
It has. It's
No, it's a real nice kit. All the ones we have up by us, I think the guys are happy with them.
it slows.
It's a good flying airplane.
Well, Bobby's was good until he whacked it.
And now I have a new version. Wacko.
The Wacko, that's what we ought to put on a wing. Now, do you use the same box? You ship it, you know, like when a customer, he sends you the box back?
What I did was I made the first dozen. I made these boxes to take out to VSC.
Oh, okay.
And we found out they're not strong enough to ship in. They're not thick enough to ship in. So
Wow, it is what, 3/8 wood?
yeah, but
Holy
but
crow.
they're still good for
see-
coming
but
to something like this for a guy
See,
to
they're
carry
only this thick. And
Oh, okay, so they
you got
don't have
weak
a,
spot here. You know?
right in the middle.
So what UPS does, they stack 25 boxes here, and then they jump up and down on it. See if they can break it.
Especially in New York.
That's what
They get Walter
That
to sit on
happens in
them.
New York, you know.
You right.
Oh, yeah.
You right.
Right in the New York area.
Right, no step, and that's where all the foots. You know, you just
Oh,
whole
You
line
now,
of footprint.
you man, I'm in was in the hi-fi business till I retired. You got to see the box some of them come in the way. We'd
How
have
many,
to-
how many Cavaliers
we'd
you
have-
got? Just one?
2.
You got 2? How many you got, Midgley? Well, you got 6 Cavaliers within arm's length
Please,
of
I'm
me.
getting excited.
But Jimmy, we're having there's a challenge.
How you doing?
Go out on the field and see if there's more profile cardinals or this. And he's coming up strong, you know. I'm losing this valve.
Okay, because I realized I didn't see you yesterday.
Nothing.
I heard you at breakfast talking about something about profile.
Oh, the tanks. The tank. We're making a tank for profiles that has no air in it.
Okay.
Subjet and I
Oh,
have, well,
the thing with the bladder.
yeah, for
You
profiles.
felt one of these with the 60.
Oh, they're strong as can be. Yeah, strong as can be.
Yeah, it's like a piece of steel.
Yep.
And then it's
Twist that. That's a good thing to put on a video.
Well, don't hold it up front. Hold it right
No. Yeah,
like that.
between the flaps and here. This is where it has to be strong. That's doesn't get any better than that.
This is cool. You just start out with a.
And you start out with making a geodetic. Yeah.
Pardon? Can you make me one of these for my mantle? I love it. You got to find some way to get it to go back and forth, you know.
He does. He has a dumb guy like you stand there and hold it all day.
Right. That's right. What he brought me along for? I stand there and move them. People are always asking the question, what throws should I have on my bell crank?
Okay.
Well, now I can answer it after they tell me, you know, what size bell crank,
Right.
what throw they want. I can tell you. I'm going to make up a set of tables that tells you.
You can make a chart. Yeah.
For each
Yeah.
bell crank.
This is degrees, right?
Right.
Yeah. For exactly, you know.
Oh, this is the outer hole? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
this
shows
is
you how much
Oh, you have
handle
a slide
travel.
thing. Okay.
How much handle travel equals. Like for a beginner, you want it slower.
There we go.
You know, you don't want to have the. I'm assuming.
You just say, what throw, how
Right,
much throw
right.
do you want? Well, I don't know. Well, I suggest for you 30 degrees, or I suggest
Right. For a
25
beginner, you want it
Here's
slow.
where you need to drill your hole in your bell.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a good deal.
They're not coming this way. You just made this for the
And so
demonstration.
you can slide it back and see what I'll do is
Oh,
I'll
you can
measure.
do that. Okay.
I'll measure the distance
Measure it off here.
and
Yeah.
see how much throw I get. Then I'll move it a 16th. See how much throw I get. I'll move it another 16th, and then
And you'll
I'll make
drill
it,
a hole in those places.
and I'll make I'll make up a set of tables. So when you say where should I drill my hole, I ask you how many degrees, what size bell crank, how many degrees of throw do you want? You tell me I want 28 degrees. I'll say, all right, you should drill a hole at.
Do any stunt flyers get that precise? I want 28 degrees?
No.
I used to say, I remember when Gene and I used to build, like, as long as it goes straight up and
Well,
down.
my phone rings every day. Where should I drill my
Yeah?
hole in
Oh,
bed?
wow. Okay. I didn't realize that.
And I can't tell them, without.
Well,
These are guys getting real technical.
Don't do anything.
without
but it can't
You
be
might
any
as well
worse.
give up now while you're ahead.
It can't be any worse than if you don't know to begin with. If you just pick up, like guys, how many Nobles do you think guys built and just put the hole in the wrong hole, the wrong hole, and the wrong hole? And that was the only thing wrong with the plane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a shame that guys did it that way. And what you got? Slot cutters.
See that, Woody? Somebody else was clever, just like you were.
You're not the only smart Pollock in the
You're
world.
not the only smart guy. Look at that.
Pretty neat, huh?
Yeah, looks good.
Woody did that years
Looks
ago.
good.
Slot cutters.
A line winder.
Tom's all right, man. He's got this down to a science.
Yeah, that's good.
He packs it up nice. And he does a nice job.
Pretty excellent.
Look at this guy. You might think he did this for a living.
Yeah, I'm making a fortune.
Oh, yeah.
But you make it up in volume, Tom.
I got a tax refund this year.
And you make it up in the respect your fellow modelers have for you.
I got a tax refund this year, the first time in the last 25 years.
No kidding.
Because of all the losses on this business.
That's okay. Let me tell you a better one. My wife says we're in the poverty level, but she's got a new Cadillac sitting in the garage. And everything's
That's what's keeping you in the Cadillac, the poverty
Jesus,
level.
you know, what is this?
Alright, there's the terminal choices.
Nothing better than having choices.
Choices.
Go to a restaurant and there's only one thing on the menu that's not a good restaurant.
There's room for everybody.
And that's a good slogan. I have to keep that in mind.
There's room for everything.
You ought to put that, you ought to put
There's room even
you
for
oughta
Tom
put
Morris's
cars.
business.
room for everybody.
Yeah, that's a good deal. You see the Tiwasaki stunt team is the first one up with his Tucker Special. Terry Tiwasaki. As the sun is breaking out, oh, I hope we're going to get some weather here. More new people are rolling in. People have showed. Tom Morris is here, of course, with his stuff. Whoa, ho, 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 ho. And we're going to try to do the first thing, walk around and get some footage of all the planes that are here. Because each day what happens is people bring different collections of planes out to practice with, or fly, or compete with, or hang out with, or just to show, really. And it's all part of the Brodak. That's why I don't even think it's fair to call it a contest, kind of a fun fly gathering. And I guess everybody here is just hoping the rain will stay away for another couple days. Morning, Heidi. You got the rooting section going on over there? The McBride rooting section. I love it. Huh? Ugh. We just took a picture of this a minute ago. An unfortunate crash. What do you have, the handle on upside down? Or backwards or something? What happened? It looked like you had the handle upside down. It was just taxiing for a whole lap and then it flipped in. Oh, what a shame. No, he looks like he's smiling. Even at Brodak's, when you crash, you smile. Now, if he was at the Nats, he'd be mad. He'd be kicking his son or whoever the guy with him is. What happened, Scott? Do you know?
I think that might have been his first flight, too.
Oh, okay. It looked like the handle was upside down because he was taxiing for a lap almost.
He said I might have picked up the handle, but he didn't think so. But I don't know.
One of my favorite personal planes, and boy, very unique looking and doing the pattern and on the ground. In kind of a British camo motif paint job. And yesterday when we were looking at it, it looked like it was pretty well trimmed, pretty good flying ship. Of course, it's a classic design. Now again, what our objective here is to try to capture the essence of the event as it is, and capture as many people. If we were in an all-perfect world, I'd have everybody. And years from now, you look back at the video, especially the younger people here, the kids, young people like me. Yeah, looking at this fly, I remember seeing Sheiks fly a couple of different twin boom designs. I guess he was the master of building a new plane every couple of months, publishing them all and flying. He must have the record for the most planes published.
Guy here, but he's some kind of crazy eddy.
What?
Double pump.
I like the way the plane looks in flight. I'm not sure if it's a Crusader or a P-38. I'm not sure. I got to ask him.
I think it's a gobble swan.
No, it's not a gobble swan.
I think it's Suarez's P-38.
To tell you the truth, Bob, I don't know.
No, it looks like Billy. Just different
It has the rudders like the P-38.
Yeah. And the prop is in the center.
Billy still has his P-38, you know.
I 100 actually.
No, you know why it isn't a P-38? It doesn't have the booms coming forward where the motors would be.
So what is it then?
I think it's an RSM kit. I'll have to ask him. No. It's I think a Crusader or something. Yeah. They made about 10, Sheiks had about 10 of these. I think Charles Mackey, but I'm not sure. Sheiks or Charles Mackey, take your pick. Mackey designed the gobble swans, I know that. Oh, the sun is really coming out now. Looks today like I'm just guessing that there's a record turnout here in Classic, and every day there's a whole bunch of new planes on the field from the day before, so it's almost like a new contest every day. Really kind of neat, in fact. A lot of stuff going on. We're gonna try to bounce from circle to circle and hope everybody gets the flights in before, or if we do get some more rain. I guess the farmers like this rain more than the stunt flyers. They're real pretty Nobler, really nicely finished. Classic 2.4 motor run brake. And as I'm speaking, I'm starting to feel for the first time today some wind on my back, so maybe we're getting into a little bit of wind going on here. Well, yesterday, the rain didn't really stop everybody from having a good time. I'm sure today the wind will. Again, it's really difficult I really try my best not to miss anybody. Any of the people that have attended, been here. I really feel like we all should be in the picture album together. And as I look back, I play the tapes of the old Brodak meets, the original ones, and going 4 or 5 years back. They really become a priceless commodity as years go by. They're a real slice of time, frozen in time. Looks like from the judge's point of view. Boy, you guys are cruel. Oh, there's a 14. Ooh, I gotta get out of here. I can't even watch this. You guys are so bad. Well, we're right at the end of this tape, and people are bringing new planes out by the minute.
What do we have this morning? The famous one.
They have a record turnout in Classic. Enjoy using my fuel?
Yeah, thanks a lot, eh?
You're the only sponsored flyer here.
I know.
I'm not even sponsored. Nobody gives me free fuel.
When Wendy comes up north, we're going to give him some real fuel.
They're going to give me some fuel.
Hold her hair, Brad.
And then set me on fire. They got a record turnout, huh, Bob?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable turnout. Unbelievable. This is the biggest I've ever seen it.
Yeah.